My name is Richard Fortin. I'm with the Carter University team. And this week in Shop Talk, we're going to cover daily machine inspections and staying safe and productive with machines. With all that being said, I will transfer it over to Mike Mansfield. Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. As Richard said, this is Mike Mansfield, training instructor at Carter Machinery. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the Carter Machinery Shop Talk. Staying safe and productive means to us that we want our operators, our machine, to be safe and do what they are designed to do. So when we talk about operator performance, there's three phases to the operator performance. One is safety of the operator and the machine. Two is the walk around and daily inspection. And lastly would be best practice operation. So when we think about being safe and productive, all three of these play a very large role in that formula. So we're going to take a look at each one as we go through, and then at the end we're going to wrap it up and think about how do these things tie together. First of all, I'd like to start with the benefits safe and productive use. First of all is a maximum service life of the machine. The Caterpillar machine is designed for a certain number of hours and a certain amount of work. In order to make sure we get full use of the machine, we want to make sure it's used properly, safely, and that we do our inspections to make sure the machine is staying in good shape. In order to do that, we perform a thorough walk-around inspection before we mount the machine and before we start the engine. The walk-around is critically important to make sure the machine is ready to go with no obvious errors and everything is up to snuff. Now, how do we do that? We'll see here in a little bit that Caterpillar provides a walk-around inspection sheet. We can also find the procedure for the walk-around inspection in the operator's manual. And we also have a couple of tips for you as we go through here. When we're doing our walk-around, what are we looking for? We're looking for any kind of loose bolts, fasteners, or connectors. We're looking for trash buildup. If there are any oil leaks or coolant leaks or any broken or worn parts. We can also think about hoses that are rubbing together or anything else that looks unusual. A shiny spot in the paint that didn't used to be there is indicating that something is moving around that shouldn't be. So all told, and please understand, these are just a couple examples of what's on the inspection sheet, but all told, we want to make sure the machine is ready to go. And trash buildup can create problems with machines overheating. It can also present problems in the cab itself with operating foot pedals or joysticks, as the case may be. So making sure that these are all minimized would make our machine safe and productive. And lastly, we want to inspect the area around the machine and under the machine. Not only do we worry about ourselves and our Caterpillar machine, we have to look and see, are there anything that's going to be in our way? Is there anything that's going to cause us to maybe lose our balance? Is there anything that may possibly cause us to lose our load? So we want to make sure the area we're working in is safe, prepared, and ready to go for the work we're going to do that day. And to be safe and productive, we have to make sure that our work area is safe and productive. So all these are very critical, and when added together, all tie into our idea of staying safe and productive. Now, let's take a look at these three different areas that we were talking about. And the first area is safety. And you see on your screen, there is a fella in the blue box, and next to it are safety indicator warnings. So first, let's talk about the fella in the blue box. As you can see, he is climbing on the machine using 3 points of contact, facing the machine, and wearing his proper personal protective equipment. In this case, you see he has a hard hat, gloves, safety glasses, and his work boots. He's ready to go to work. So when entering or when leaving the cab of a machine, this is a proper way, 3 points of contact facing the machine. Also, once we get into the cab, we also want to make sure that we have our seat belt fastened, because that's going to help us maintain control of the machine and keep us from possible injury. All critical parts of safety. Once we're in our machine and as we're doing our walk around, we're going to see a variety of decals and warnings on different parts of the machine. We also, when we look in the operation and maintenance manual to see how to do a proper walk around, see these warning labels for us to take a look at and understand what they mean. So in order of awareness, the first one we have is danger, which is generally going to be red. And it means if the danger is not avoided, it will cause death or injury. Our next level is warning. And that means if the warning is not avoided, it may cause serious injury. And the last is caution, which means if the precaution is not taken, it can cause minor or moderate injury. So you see, when we look at these 3 levels, we also have some key words that should kind of get our attention. When we see danger, we should see the word will that goes along with it. So if we don't take care, it will cause death or injury. At the warning level, if we don't pay attention to that warning, it may cause serious injury. And our caution says it can cause minor or moderate injury. So at each level, there is possible injury or damage that can happen. So we need to pay attention to those warning labels, indicators, write-ups in our manuals so that we can keep ourselves safe. This is going to make sure that the machine is ready to go. In some cases, we call them pre-inspection or pre-trip inspection. Sometimes we call them a post-inspection or a post-trip inspection. But in either case, we're going to walk around the machine and look to make sure that, as we said earlier, loose bolts, trash, leaks, those kinds of things. You'll see on your screen now, on the left-hand side, that is an example of a safety and maintenance inspection that's provided by Caterpillar. Everybody has a version of this. Maybe you're using this form yourself. But what we have is a list of everything on the machine and the opportunity to say, yes, this is good, or no, this needs attention. So we just take our list and we go run down through each line, check to make sure that everything in that list is as it should be. If not, we make a comment that this needs repair, and then possibly tag the machine out and send it to maintenance. And that way we can keep ourselves safe, also keep our machine safe. So in the picture to the right, you see a wheel loader there and some folks doing a little bit of training. And as a matter of fact, they're doing training on the daily inspection at this time. So on this list are many things to take a look at. And we decided we'd show you a couple of things by way of some pictures and training. But please understand, what we're about to look at is not the only things you look at. There's quite a few things on the list. Some of these safety and maintenance inspections are also 2 pages front and back. Kind of depends on the machine. So, examples. What would we be looking at? Well, first of all, when we go to do our daily inspection walk around, want to make sure no one is underneath the machine, around the machine, or on the machine, and ensure the area is free of personnel. The people around the machine are not necessarily going to know what you're doing, so you want to make sure you've got clear path to keep people on the ground safe, as well as yourself and the machine. Walk around the machine, inspect underneath the machine for visible signs of fluid leaks. Check the engine oil, hydraulic oil, transmission oil, coolant levels, and if necessary, add oil or coolant to reach minimum level for each system. When you do your walk around, a couple of different ways of looking at that. When you pull out your operation and maintenance manual, it's going to give you a list of how this daily inspection is done. Where you start is not as important as making sure that you finish in the same spot. Some people like to start in the front by the attachment. Some people like to start midway by the cab door. Some people like to start in the rear by the counterweight. There's not really a hard and fast rule on what to do, but please understand that where you start is where you want to finish. And that way you know you've been all the way around the machine and everything has been checked. So once we establish there's no one going to be in our immediate area, we start our walk around. These are some of the things we're going to look at. Now, none of these are in any order of importance. Everything is important. But first thing we have here are the handrails and the steps. Got to make sure the handrails are secure in place as they should be, not bent, twisted, or damaged in any way. And you see in these pictures, we've got some examples of handrails on a track-type tractor and handrails on a wheel loader. In the middle are steps. Okay, so when we look at the track-type tractor, we have steps from the ground up to the track and up into the cab. On the wheel loader, steps from the ground up into the cab. We got to make sure that these steps are firmly mounted and not damaged, twisted, or bent. This is the first real safety issue you come into because this is where you're getting on and off of the machine. And this is where we also have to maintain our 3 points of contact. So handrails and steps, very important to take a look at, make sure they're okay. This is also easy to see. So if anybody was on your job site and they saw something not right, it's going to draw their attention. So let's just make sure everything is as it should be. Next, we're going to take a look at glass and lights. Every cab has got glass to protect you, and so you have clear vision of what you're looking at. So any kind of cracks or spider webbing or frost, those kind of things are going to prevent you from being able to have clear vision. Also, our lights. We have operating lights, warning lights, clearance lights. They all have to be visible and operational so that we can make sure and operate in a safe and productive manner. Again, we have another view. We have lights on the back of the machine. We've got lights on the mast of a track-type tractor. So where you find these lights and what they do, again, depends on the machine you're working on. So you just want to make sure that you know where they are and that you check them. We also see in the picture of the wheel loader to the right that there are mirrors. So we want to make sure that the mirrors are on, but they're not cracked. And when we get in there to operate the machine, we want to make sure they're adjusted so that we can see and have clear vision behind as well. Once we're sort of done looking at that, now we're going to kind of look at what drives the machine, if you will. So we have rubber-tired machines and we have track machines. But when we look all the way to the left on the wheel loader, very important that we take a look at the lug nuts to make sure that they're tight. The tire condition in general, no cuts, cracks, everything is as it should be there. And the lock tab and that lock ring needs to be installed and it needs to be secure. So they're pretty critical things to take a look at on rubber-tired machines. Now, the center picture, we mentioned lug nuts, and you can see on this one that if you look around the outside of the wheel, there's little trails coming from the lug nut itself to the edge of the wheel. That is an indication that that lug nut could be loose and needs to have a look at. Sometimes we can use an indicator that tells us if a lug nut is loosened up, but at the end of the day, the important thing is if a lug nut has come loose, there's going to be a trail of rust that goes from the lug nut to the outside. In our right-hand picture, we see a track-type tractor. And critically important there is that the track shoe stays tight and attached. And so we want to make sure that our track bolts are all in place and all are tightened as they should be. Anytime this comes loose, it not only damages the track shoe, but it damages the rail, it damages all the supporting pieces that let the track do its job. So it all starts with that inspection and goes on from there. Once we take a look at that, we also have the importance of radiators and coolers. The radiator is going to keep the engine nice and cool, and our oil coolers and our fuel coolers and our after coolers and our condensers for the air conditioning, all these things have to be clean, and they have to have good, clean airflow through them so that they can do their job as designed. And so we want them clean and ready at the beginning of the shift, and we also need to occasionally take a look at them during the shift to make sure they're staying clean and ready to go. And sometimes this can be a job. Some of these are a little tough to get to. We also want to take a look at our batteries, because nothing works if we don't have electrical power. So an unsecured battery, loose terminal, posts on cables, and corrosion are killers of batteries. So we want to make sure they're installed correctly, that they're held down by a device, and everything is tight and clean. And this will give us long life out of our batteries. Also, will help the machine to operate as designed. Cylinders and connections. So all of our machines do work. And in some form or fashion, they have cylinders that move a work tool to do work for us. So it's important when we're doing our walk around that we're looking to make sure that these are securely attached, that there's no leakage at the connectors, no leakage on the rod coming out of the cylinder, and that everything is secure. We also kind of see in that right-hand picture that we also need to lubricate these connections to keep them safe and productive. Okay? One of the things we need to kind of think about too with these leaks is if you have a leak where a fluid can come out, it can also allow dirt into the system, which is going to shorten the lifespan of our machine. Our attachments, several different inspections go along with. Out here we have our ground engaging tool where you see it says bucket tip. So we want to take a look at those and make sure they're not cracked, overly worn, or damaged in any way. The base edge is back in behind them on the bucket, also very important as a wear item. Want to make sure that they're not cracked or in bad or any kind of disturbed shape. And then your bucket tip adapter and retaining pin, that's what keeps the ground engaging tool attached to the bucket. We want to make sure that that's all squared away and not overly loose or damaged. It may cause us a problem later on. In our center picture, we see side cutters on the bucket. Very important to take a look at those. Also inspect the bolts, make sure that there's nothing loose there. And with our track type tractor blade on the right, you see we're looking at the cutting edges, the end bits, and also looking at the mounting bolts to make sure they're all properly installed, that they're actually there, and that they're doing their job, so that we can have our tool as safe and productive as our machine. Okay? So now with all that in mind, we got a couple pictures here for you just to think about. And the title says, would this be good or bad? So when we look at the 301.5 that's on the left, if that was our machine, I imagine we could make a whole list of stuff that's not correct with that one. You see there's glass missing, there's things that are bent, we're missing a cover. This machine would have a lengthy daily inspection check sheet on it because there are some things here that do need attention. In our right-hand picture, not sure if you can identify what that used to be, and certainly we're not going to be inspecting engine internal components, but this used to be a piston in an engine. And the reason I put it in there is to think about if we let some things slide on our daily inspection, could we end up doing this kind of damage to the machine? And certainly that's going to reduce its life expectancy, and it's going to have us not being productive for a day or two while that gets repaired. So doing a good inspection, make sure we have everything documented, is going to work towards that staying safe and productive and maintaining machine life. Here's another one here. This is an undercarriage to an excavator. And what happened here was the fellow wanted to clean this, do a good thorough cleaning job on this undercarriage. So what he did is he went in here and he cut some places where he could get up inside and clean out the box. Well, folks, this is just not something we can do. As soon as you cut into these right here, you have disqualified this frame from being able to be used again. So something that started out as what might have been a good idea turned into quite an expensive ordeal. So again, balancing what we do, how we do it, our safety and our inspections is what's going to get us the longest life out of our machines. The last leg of our discussion here today is best practice operation. How do we use the machine correctly to make sure that once we're safe and once we're sure our machine is ready to go, are we using it to its maximum potential? And Caterpillar supplies guidance on this. What we're looking at here is a picture from our simulators, which are designed to help operators understand what they're doing and what the best practice according to Caterpillar is. And this is something that can be discussed in the future, if that seems like something that would help you out. So best practice means, am I operating the machine correctly to get the best production? And in order to get the best production, again, like we said, we keep hammering on it here, safety and walk-around inspections are very important. And to wrap it up, let's take a look at these benefits again. Now that we kind of understand what the safety and the walk-around is all about, do we now understand that for maximum service life of the machine, we have to be aware of our machine, of ourselves, and we have to be safe when we're doing it. Performing a thorough walk-around inspection before you mount and before you start the machine, again, we see that as very important. We could also add in here to think about, walk-around inspection can also be done after the shift and needs to be done after a lunch break, just to make sure that everything is working properly and nothing has changed since the last walk-around inspection. What we're looking for, loose bolts, trash buildup, oil leaks, coolant leaks, broken parts or worn parts, or anything else unusual, and also the area around and under the machine to make sure that we are as clear and as safe as we can be. If you have any questions or you want to get more information, here's our website, carteru.com. Look up in there any other training opportunities, anything you need, we can handle that right here at our website, carteru.com.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate the information about those daily inspections. Good stuff. For upcoming shop talks, we've got the June 10th where we are introducing a new series called Carter Undercover. We're going to talk about the hydraulic shop. June 17th, we'll talk about undercarriage visual inspection. And then finally, June 24th, we'll talk about genuine cat parts. Again, if you'll remember my genuine cat parts shop talk on filters, we're going to do one very similar but with batteries this time, so that should be pretty interesting. So we'll hope that you'll join us for that. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback that you'd like to provide to us, email us at shoptalkchannel@cartermachinery.com, and we can get that to the appropriate person. Thanks again to Mike for giving us that information about daily inspection. We thank you for your time, and Carter Machinery certainly thanks you for your business. So have a good day. Thank you very much.